have literally gotten to a situation, is there another way you can do this? And the president is asking the questions that have never been asked on the civilian side, the political side, the military side, and the strategic side. What is the impact on that? Those are the questions that have not been asked, and before you commit troops, which is then not irreversible, but puts you down a certain path, before you make that decision, there's a set of questions that have to have answers that have never been asked, and it's clear after 8 years of war that's basically starting from beginning that those questions never got asked. And what I find interesting and just intriguing from this debate in Washington is that a lot of people who all of a sudden this is now the epicenter of the war on terror, you must do this now, immediately approve what the general said.
Make no mistake, signals of indecision out of Washington hurt our allies and embolden our adversaries. Waffling while our troops on the ground face an emboldened enemy endangers them and hurts our cause. Recently, President Obama's advisors have decided that it's easier to blame the Bush administration than support our troops. This weekend, they leveled a charge that cannot go unanswered. The President's Chief of Staff claimed that the Bush administration had not asked any tough questions about Afghanistan, and he complained that the Obama administration had to start from scratch to put together a strategy. In the fall of 2008, fully aware of the need to meet new challenges being posed by the Taliban, we dug into every aspect of Afghanistan policy, assembled a team that traveled to both Afghanistan and Pakistan, reviewing options and recommendations, and briefing President-elect Obama's team. They asked us not to announce our findings publicly, and we agreed, giving them the benefit of our work and the benefit of the doubt. The new strategy that they embraced in March, with a focus on counterinsurgency and an increase in the number of troops, bears a striking resemblance to the strategy we passed to them during the transition before the inauguration.
You have literally gotten to a situation, is there another way you can do this? And the president is asking the questions that have never been asked on the civilian side, the political side, the military side, and the strategic side.
For the first time ever, U.S. presidential candidate Senator Barack Obama comes to Afghanistan. The senator arrived late Saturday morning, Kabul time. Weeks, Senator Obama describing Afghanistan as the central front in the war on terror. Many analysts agree he could ill afford not to visit Afghanistan right before the elections, and many say this was crucial in changing the perception back in the States that Barack Obama is weak on national security, weak on foreign policy. Reza Sayah, CNN, Kabul.
After 8 years of war that's basically starting from beginning, that those questions never got asked. And what
Fox News contributor Karl Rove was senior advisor and deputy chief of staff to President Bush. I imagine you have a different view of what Mr. Emanuel had to say about the way the Bush administration conducted the war.
Yeah, what world has he been living in? The Taliban was removed from power. A constitution was written, a modern constitution, the first democratic elections in the history of Afghanistan. The Karzai government was formed after a loyal jirga in which the tribes agreed to join together. Militias were disarmed. Warlords were put on the sidelines. The situation began to improve. It was in 2007 and 2008 that the enemy began to strike back again. And you know, it's really amazing. Mr. Emanuel left the impression that they were the first people to ask tough questions. That's simply not true. A strategic review was begun in 2008 by the Bush administration. In conjunction with the Obama transition team, the Bush administration did not publicly release that review, but instead handed it on to the new administration, President Obama, in January of this year. President Obama used that strategic review and on March 27th issued his own plan based upon that strategic review. Mr. Emanuel was in Congress during the time that the Taliban was ejected from power. So he certainly knew about that from at least congressional briefings, if not the newspapers, and he was in Congress when these other steps were taken, and every American saw the progress that we made in Afghanistan. This administration, the new administration, President Obama's administration, was not the first to deal with this problem.
So you're saying that when President Obama announced in March that he had done a major, thorough review of Afghanistan policy, that was essentially work that had been laid, the groundwork that had been laid by the Bush administration?
Absolutely. It began last year. There was a conference in Bucharest with NATO allies. There was a comprehensive strategic review conducted in 2008. And literally the Obama transition team and the Bush White House agreed that that report would not be issued by President Bush and his administration, but instead would be handed over so that President Obama would have time to look at it and adopt it. And that's exactly what he did on March 27th when he adopted a comprehensive new counterinsurgency strategy based to some degree upon what had happened in Iraq, but as was outlined in this assessment, and then when he called for 21,000 additional troops in Afghanistan, which again was directionally what the strategic assessment, the strategic review pointed towards.
For 6 years, Afghanistan has been denied the resources that it demands because of the war in Iraq. Now we must make a commitment that can accomplish our goals. I've already ordered the deployment of 17,000 troops that had been requested by General McKiernan for many months. These soldiers and Marines will take the fight to the Taliban in the south and the east and give us a greater capacity to partner with Afghan security forces and to go after insurgents along the border. This push will also help provide security in advance of the important presidential elections in Afghanistan in August. Now, make no mistake, we do not want to keep our troops in Afghanistan. We seek no military bases there. It is agonizing for America to lose our young men and women. It is costly and politically difficult to continue this conflict. We would gladly bring every single one of our troops home if we could be confident that there were not violent extremists in Afghanistan and now Pakistan determined to kill as many Americans as they possibly can. But that is not yet the case. And that's why we're partnering with a coalition of 46 countries. And despite the costs involved, America's commitment will not weaken.
There are policy differences, and then there are affronts that have to be answered every time without equivocation, and this is one of those. We cannot protect this country by putting politics over security and turning the guns on our own guys. We cannot hope to win a war by talking down our country and those who do its hardest work, the men and women of our military and intelligence services. They are, after all, the true keepers of the flag.